Dear friends, I'm happy to welcome you to this channel. I promise you'll have a great time here. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the story. And now let's begin. The office was his playground until I set fire to it all. Some betrayals don't come from lips tasting someone else. They come from boardrooms, locked doors, and the sound of giggling too young to be innocent. You never expect to catch your husband cheating in broad daylight. In his office, while interns roam around in pencil skirts and anxious smiles. But that's exactly how it happened. And no, he wasn't naked, not literally. That would have been easier. Because when someone is caught with their pants down, at least they're exposed. But when they're dressed in their cleanest suit, smiling like a mentor, masking abuse as opportunity, that's a filth no detergent can touch. It started with a phone call. Nothing dramatic, just a missed appointment at the gallery. One of his junior assistants forgot to reschedule. He asked me to swing by the office and drop off the revised contract myself. Simple, innocent, so routine I didn't even put on makeup. I wore flats, threw on a hoodie. Didn't expect that walk into his building would be the last time I looked at him the same. I've known Noah since college. He was the smart one, the ambitious one, the golden boy with endless ideas and the kind of laugh that made people lean in closer. I helped him build the company. The late nights, the first contracts, the first loan. My name is on that LLC. But the girls in that waiting room didn't know that. I walked in and felt it immediately. Something wasn't right. It wasn't the girls. Young, yes, barely 20, probably interning for credit or resume fluff. It was how they sat, too still, too polished, too scared to be loud. Their eyes darted to mine like prey recognizing something familiar, or maybe warning me. I smiled. One smiled back. Barely. His assistant, Stacy, greeted me with her usual forced charm. She didn't ask how I was, didn't offer coffee. She just said, "Oh, he's with, team interviews right now." Team interviews? On a Saturday? I wasn't supposed to be suspicious, but the hallway was too quiet for something so team. I walked past her before she could stop me. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Soft, staged, nervous, followed by a sentence that made my stomach twist. "If you want to stay on after the summer, we'll need to see just how committed you are." And then silence, then a door closing, then a girl's voice, unsure. "Do I have to?" And Noah, "Only if you want to succeed." I've never felt my own skin burn from the inside. But in that moment, standing outside his conference room, I swear I felt every cell in my body rise like fire. I didn't barge in. I didn't scream. I waited. I waited until I saw her come out. A girl barely 21, blouse misbuttoned, cheeks flushed not with desire but with confusion and shame. She didn't look at me. She walked past me like a shadow. One that belonged to someone else's guilt. Noah stepped out 2 minutes later, smiling. Then he saw me, and that smile died. "What are you doing here?" His voice was a poor imitation of calm. I held up the folder. "You forgot this. I brought it myself." He reached for it, but I didn't let go. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "How many girls have you interviewed this year, Noah?" He froze, just for a second. But it was enough. When a man gets caught, he thinks the danger is the accusation, but the real danger is the silence that comes after. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I smiled, because monsters hate it when their prey stops shaking. He thought I'd go home and break down. What he didn't know was I wasn't going home. I was going to war. He groomed interns like they were toys. I collected evidence like it was ammunition. Men like him don't just cheat, they curate, they select, they test. And when they get caught, they count on the women to shatter quietly in the kitchen. But I broke differently. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was crying, because I was studying. Every text he'd sent me, every bank statement, every NDA he had me co-sign during expansion, every assistant's name, resume, and LinkedIn history. It wasn't just about him cheating. It was about what he'd built that cheating into. A machine, a mechanism, a full-blown system where ambition became bait and consent became currency, and I helped fund it. I let that sink in. I didn't just marry a man. I married a predator and business casual. First, I needed access, not as a wife, as a co-founder. Yes, he forgot to change that, forgot that I still had admin privileges on his cloud drive, that the HR forms he never read still CC'd me as legal advisor. While he slept beside me that night, unaware I had heard everything, I downloaded 6 years of onboarding documents, found folders marked private interviews, found flagged emails, found exit interviews that had never been processed, found one girl's resignation letter that read, "I didn't come here to be tested like a cocktail waitress at a strip club. I came here to learn," and he used that against me. The next day I met with Marta, our family attorney. Noah didn't know I still spoke to her, didn't know she owed me favors from when I helped her get her license renewed during lockdown. Marta read everything quietly, page by page. Then she looked at me and said, "You're not just divorcing him. You're about to dismantle him." We spent 2 weeks gathering testimonies, screenshots, chat logs, security footage from the office. Yes, they had cameras. And yes, Stacy was dumb enough to label them by intern name. What we found could sink 10 companies because this wasn't just moral rot. It was legal liability wrapped in charisma. And Noah thought I was still folding his socks. Men like him don't fear scandal. They fear exposure with timestamps. I created a separate LLC, quietly, under my maiden name, transferred my 49% stake from silent wife to active co-owner, filed the papers through a shell firm in Delaware. He wouldn't notice, not until it was too late. And while Marta built the legal framework, I called the girls. 3 of them agreed to talk. One cried, one screamed, one just whispered, "Thank you. I thought no one saw me." "I saw you, baby. I see you now. And I'm going to burn the man who made you feel invisible." He had no idea that the documents I slid into his briefcase next Monday morning were the ones that would take his company, his name, and every ounce of power he thought I'd never touch. The day his empire cracked, and he didn't even see it coming. There are many ways to set a man on fire, but the slowest, hottest burn is when you make him watch himself collapse. One press release, one headline, one ruined meeting at a time. I didn't plan to humiliate him in public. At first, I thought maybe he'd step down quietly. Maybe the shame would be enough. Maybe he'd read the documents I left in his briefcase, the testimonials, the time-stamped footage, the resignation letters, and realize the gig was up. But that morning, he walked into the kitchen like a goddamn king, coffee in one hand, Bluetooth in the other, smiling at his own reflection in the microwave door. "Big day," he said. "Investor brunch. Gotta keep the sharks fed." I stared at him, not because I admired him, but because I realized he really didn't think anything could touch him. That's when I changed the plan. No quiet exit. He was going down in daylight. At 9 a.m., the files were scheduled to drop, sent from an anonymous email to every major client, every board member, every female employee. 2 journalists I trusted. The subject line was simple: "What your CEO doesn't want you to know." The contents: PDFs, security footage, redacted identities to protect the girls, not him, legal commentary from Marta. By 9:17 a.m., my phone started buzzing. By 9:26 a.m., I heard his phone go silent. He looked at me, eyes wide, still holding his half-eaten toast. "Did you see this? Someone's accusing me of—" I didn't blink. "Someone?" I said. "Or do you mean three someones, 5, 9? His voice cracked. You sent this?" I leaned in. "No, Noah. I just opened the gate. The monsters walked out on their own." By 11 o'clock a.m., his assistant quit. By noon, the investor brunch was canceled. By 2 o'clock p.m., he was locked out of the internal portal. Marta had filed the motion to freeze company assets until an internal audit could be completed. My 49% stake, now fully activated, gave me the power to do it. Noah tried to call me. I didn't answer. He tried to call Marta. She answered, said, "This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a reckoning." People think a business dies in a boardroom. No, it dies in the inboxes of people who once believed in it. That evening, I sat on the back porch, wine in hand. My phone flooded with texts from women I didn't know, saying thank you, saying I thought it was just me, saying he almost got away with it. He almost did. But he forgot something. I was watching, and I don't blink anymore. I thought that would be the end. But Noah had one last trick. He went to the press, and what he said about me on live TV nearly cost me everything until I turned the cameras back on him. He went on TV and called me crazy. I brought receipts live. Men like him can't survive silence, so when they lose control, they run to the nearest microphone and pray the noise drowns out the truth. But I had a louder voice and a cleaner record. The clip went viral in under an hour. Local business news, then regional, then TikTok. There he was, Noah Halston, CEO, slick as ever, sitting in a blazer he didn't deserve, blinking like the lights were too bright for what he was about to do. "This whole situation is a tragic misunderstanding," he said, voice smooth as whiskey and twice as toxic. "My wife, well, soon-to-be ex-wife, is unfortunately struggling emotionally. She's always been intense, and when she felt sidelined in the company, she reacted in a way that, frankly, is dangerous." He paused, touched his tie. "I've always supported women in leadership, but what we're seeing now is a smear campaign built on bitterness, not facts. I didn't throw my phone, I didn't scream, I laughed. Because in that one interview, he didn't just insult me, he activated me. That night, I went live, not on TV, on my terms, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, every platform where women listen to women who stop being quiet. The caption, 'Let's talk about what really happened,' with documents. I didn't need makeup. I needed proof. I held up the resignation letters, with names redacted, dates highlighted. I read quotes, displayed emails, showed the time-stamped security footage with sound. And then I said, I'm not crazy, I'm not bitter. I'm a woman who built this company with a man who used it like a buffet line for abuse, and I am done protecting him. By morning, my video had 1.2 million views. The comments were brutal and not for me, for him. Former interns started speaking out. HR professionals reposted policy violations line by line. A lawyer stitched my post and said, "This is a case study in corporate sexual coercion." The final blow came from someone I didn't expect, his former CFO. She emailed me directly, attached a document trail proving Noah used company funds to pay off 2 interns in 2021, $35,000 each, hush money, non-disclosures, signed under pressure. Money that came from the corporate account labeled miscellaneous morale. We filed the paperwork the same day, and I handed it to the press, personally. He called me unstable, but I was the one holding all the facts. He built his castle on silence. I turned that silence into sound and made sure the whole world heard it. Noah went quiet after that. No more interviews, no more statements, just subpoenas and silence. And me, I sat on a panel 2 weeks later, Women in Tech Rebuilding After Betrayal. They asked how I stayed so composed. I said, composure isn't silence, it's strategy, and mine was always louder than his charm. I thought the worst was behind me, but then one of the girls he hurt called me directly, and what she told me was something even I wasn't ready to hear. She was just another intern, until she said I'm carrying his child. I thought the nightmare was over. But it turns out when men like Noah fall, they don't just crush reputations, they crush people. And sometimes what's left behind is too small to even speak yet. It was just after 9 when the message came in. Hi, I don't know if I should do this, but I saw your video. I think you should know something. No name, no photo, just an Instagram DM sitting in my requests like a loaded question. I answered carefully. I'm listening. The next reply came within minutes. I interned there last year. He never touched me, not technically. But I was 22. I wanted a job. I wanted to matter. He gave me both and then took everything. I sat there holding my breath, watching the typing bubble dance, pause, return. Then, I'm pregnant, 12 weeks. It's his. He doesn't know. There are sentences you expect to hear when you fight for justice. Thank you. I'm with you. Even I'm sorry. But nothing prepares you for. He left me with this. I called Marta that night. What do? I asked. Her answer was fast, cold, efficient. Document everything. Don't react emotionally. She may need legal protection, medical support, and frankly, you're not her target. He is. But I didn't care about the legal part. I cared about her voice. Young, trembling, not with fear, but with guilt. As if this was her fault, as if the aftermath of his abuse belonged to her. We spoke the next day. Her name was Layla. She was 23, bright, quiet, from a small town, no family nearby. She told me how Noah made her feel like the exception, how he mentored her late at night, how he praised her intelligence and then made that intelligence feel like currency. She never said yes, but she never said no either. Because when power is in the room, silence becomes survival. I didn't even want to keep it, she said. I still don't know if I do, but I needed to tell someone. I needed someone to know that this didn't end with your marriage. It's still happening inside me. She was carrying more than a pregnancy. She was carrying shame, confusion, and a question that wasn't hers to answer. What happens to the child of a man like that? I didn't promise her justice. I'd learned not to make promises I couldn't enforce. But I did promise one thing. He won't touch you. He won't gaslight you. And he sure as hell won't pretend you don't exist. That same day, we filed a protective order. Not from physical harm, from legal retaliation, because now that she'd spoken, we knew how Noah operated. He didn't fight with fists, he fought with lawsuits and shame, but this time he'd fight both of us, and this time we had something even stronger than truth. We had the future. I thought destroying his business would be the end, but when I found out what he planned to do with Layla's pregnancy, I realized this war wasn't just about reputation anymore. It was about legacy. A man who manipulates you into silence will always try to pay for your silence once you start speaking. Layla called me in tears. I was in the grocery store, standing between a stack of lemons and a shelf of crackers I wasn't even going to buy. Her voice shook. He found me. Those 3 words froze the aisle. He emailed me from a private account, said he heard rumors and wanted to meet privately to discuss my options. I didn't need her to finish the sentence. I already knew what options meant in Noah's language. You can keep your dignity, just don't keep the proof. She agreed to meet him, but not alone. She wore a wire, Marta's idea, my funding. They met in a hotel lobby. Public, bright, surrounded by people. Noah arrived like he always did, smiling, overconfident, reeking of cologne and damage control. He didn't ask how she was, he asked how far along she was, if she'd told anyone, if she wanted to avoid all this noise and just move forward with her life. Then he pulled out a check, $20,000, and when she hesitated, he said, "Look, we both made mistakes. This isn't good for either of us. You don't need this kind of attention. Let's make this disappear, for both our sakes." He wasn't just trying to erase her pregnancy. He was trying to erase the evidence that he was ever the villain. What he didn't know? The microphone caught everything, and the check, and we had it scanned, notarized, preserved. By noon the next day, it was in the hands of our legal team, the press, and a reproductive rights foundation that now recognized Layla by name, not as a scandal, but as a survivor. Noah's team responded with panic. They released a statement calling the check a private gift, claimed the conversation was taken out of context, tried to flip the narrative. Disgruntled intern weaponizes pregnancy against respected entrepreneur. But no one bought it anymore. Not after the wire, not after the patterns, not after me. Layla moved in with me just for a while. My guest room had never held so much strength in it. At night we sat on the porch. She asked what kind of mother she might be. I told her, "You already are one because you're choosing to fight instead of folding." He used his name like a shield, but he forgot. Names are just noise if they're not backed by truth. The next morning we filed a joint suit. Patterned workplace exploitation, financial coercion, and reproductive intimidation, it was formally named, alongside 2 board members who had ignored complaints and Stacy, his assistant, who helped schedule interviews. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about every system that let him exist. But when Noah's father, a man I hadn't spoken to in 12 years, showed up at my door, he told me something about Noah's past that made my blood run cold, because monsters like him aren't born. They're molded. Sometimes justice means burning the present, but sometimes, to stop the cycle, you have to dig up the bones of the past. It was a Tuesday, overcast, quiet, the kind of day that hums with a bad premonition. I was sipping tea on the porch when I saw him, Alan Halston, Noah's father, a man I hadn't seen in 12 years, not since our wedding anniversary dinner when he toasted to strong sons and stronger women who let them lead. Even then I knew something about him was wrong, but I let Noah excuse it. "He's just old-fashioned, babe." Now he stood at the gate, not smug, not angry, just tired, and holding a manila envelope. I didn't want to let him in, but something about his face, the lines, the way he looked at the porch like it was a church, told me this wasn't a power play, it was a confession. I opened the door. He sat down without asking. Put the envelope on the table between us. "It's not an apology," he said, "but it's what I should have said years ago." Inside the envelope were 3 letters, handwritten, dated between 1996 and 2001, from Noah's mother to Alan. The first, "You think I don't see it, the way he watches girls at school, the way he talks to the babysitter." He's not just curious, Alan. He's 17 and already manipulating people. The second, he lied again. Said I hit him when I asked about the girl in the basement. She ran out crying. Alan, he needs help, real help. The third, undated, tear-stained. If anything ever happens and you wonder if I knew, yes, I knew. I just didn't know how to stop it. I stared at the paper like it was a corpse. Alan said nothing for a long time. Then I buried them. I told myself she was overreacting, that boys will be boys, that it was better not to ruin his future over feelings. He looked at me. But now it's not just feelings, it's girls, women, babies. It's legacies. He didn't fall, sweetheart. He was raised this way. We think abusers come from nowhere, but often they're built one excuse at a time. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I felt something quieter, something heavier. A grief for the girl I used to be, the one who thought marrying into a powerful family was safety, the one who didn't ask the right questions, the one who let charisma blind her to origin. Later that night, I called Layla, told her everything. She was quiet. Then she said, "That means he was already like this before you." I nodded. And now, we make sure it ends with us. We thought exposing him would be enough, but then Noah tried one last move, and this time it wasn't about protecting himself. It was about erasing everything we built, and I had to decide just how far I'd go to stop him. When they can't control you, they try to erase you. But when a woman's already survived the fire, what's left to burn is just their legacy. It has started with an email from the foundation Noah and I co-founded 10 years ago, a Women in STEM scholarship we created for PR, but which I fought to make real. Subject line, restructuring, new leadership, new vision, no signature, no warning. I called Marta. She pulled the board records. Noah had reappointed himself as sole director, leveraging an obscure clause I hadn't seen in years. And he'd filed to dissolve the program, citing reputational damage, the record read. Funding diverted, assets to be absorbed by Halston Future Initiatives. Translation, he was killing everything I'd built, just to prove he could still break something. He didn't want revenge, he wanted annihilation. I sat in my office and stared at the screen. Not because I was surprised, because I finally understood he couldn't fix his image, so he decided to destroy mine and everything that had grown from it, including Layla, including the future, including every woman who ever believed in the dream I made real, with or without him. But I had one last card, the Board of Ethics from our primary investor. They had a clause. No executive under formal investigation may modify foundational programs without independent review. And guess what? Noah was under two. I called the chair directly. Didn't send a lawyer, didn't send Marta. I went myself, sat across from the panel, presented the evidence. Then I stood up and said, you can protect his ego, or you can protect the reason this company ever mattered. Choose, because I already did. 3 days later, Noah's authority was revoked permanently. The foundation was reinstated, its leadership turned over to women I had mentored. The scholarship returned, and Noah, he disappeared from the headlines, from the website, from the story, but not from the consequences. Layla gave birth 7 months later. A girl, healthy, beautiful. She named her Clara, after her grandmother. She didn't put Noah's name on the certificate, and I stood in the hospital hallway watching this tiny, perfect baby blink at the light, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not victory, not triumph, just the kind of peace that comes when you've done the thing that needed doing, even if no one claps at the end. He built a world on fear. I tore it down with facts, and from the rubble, we planted something better. 6 months later, I stood on a stage with Layla beside me. She told her story to a room of women, some who'd lived through it, some who hadn't yet. And when she finished, she turned to me and said, "You didn't save me, you saw me." And that was enough. I smiled because she was wrong. She saved herself, and I just made sure no one got in her way.